trip from Abundance Farm to Neely's garden. And
Yay!
we're going to talk about how to get it ready for transplants and different ways that you can weed. So let's take a look. Okay. So you can see in this bed that it's this really beautiful bed. It's really nicely outlined and there's some weeds growing in it. And that's okay. We have lots of different ways to get rid of them. On this one, we're going to be using not cardboard mulching. We're just going to be weeding it out, and we'll talk about different ways to do that. So one way that most people know is just hand weeding. So that just looks like pulling it out and trying to get as many roots as you can.
Can we get a close-up of that? All right.
I am closed up.
So
Beautiful.
this is also our videographer, Tall Schulman. And so, Farmer Rebecca, why is this bed particularly a good candidate for just hand weeding or some other kind of weeding?
Versus cardboard mulching?
Versus cardboard mulching. Because I don't know if you noticed, but I did do an excellent job of creating boundaries with cardboard mulch and wood chips.
Yes. I would say we don't need to cardboard mulch this bed because there's no noxious weeds. We just have your standard variety dandelion, some clover, some violets, and those are like they're not so intense. If there was like a lot of crabgrass in here or I don't know, ivy or something, I would suggest cardboard mulching. But today we're just gonna hand weed. And so maybe you want to hand weed, maybe you want to use a hoe. So here are 3 different types of hoes. This is called, I think, a linear hoe. It's very tall. I think it's taller than all 3 of us.
I love vocab. Nice.
This is a shuffle hoe.
Shuffle hoe.
Or a stirrup hoe, because it kind of looks like a stirrup. And this is kind of your garden variety hoe. And so for all of these, we can use them for weeding. And I would say my favorite here is to use a stirrup hoe. And they all have the same idea, which is you're disturbing the soil.
Now, I think the other thing about this bed and why it doesn't maybe need the cardboard mulching as much is because I'm remembering now, at the beginning, ended up doing a bunch of weeding. Like,
yeah.
It's already kind of been weeded a bunch, and so it's practically what we might think of as it's almost a ready bed.
Yeah.
We just need a little bit of work on it.
Totally. Okay, so I want you to notice, today is a perfect day for weeding because it's so sunny. And if you come closer, we can see that there's some white threads in here. So it's kind of hard to see, but maybe you can see it on video. In soil, there's like lots of weed seeds that are just waiting. And they can be in the soil for years. And the ways they get activated are by when you move the soil, they might get like a little bit more oxygen, or they might get exposed to light, or they might get a little bit more water, and then they want to flush, they want to grow. So when we disturb the soil, it's great to do it on a sunny day because these tiny little weed seeds that have germinated are going to have their white roots, their really vulnerable roots exposed to the sun, and then they're just going to die. And that's great. That's what we want.
We want them to die.
We want the weeds to die. And...
Die.
Right. Dianu.
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 Die. Go away. We don't like you.
So probably what we're going to do is we're going to finish weeding this bed, and then we're just going to leave it for a week. And that way, a bunch of things will shrivel up in the sun, and it'll allow a new crop of weeds that have had their seeds disturbed to flush, and then we'll come back and weed it again next week. So the best way to weed is to just get it when it's really small in this white thread stage and expose it to the sun.
Instead of like spending like time yanking out big mature clumps of grass, get it early, or big mature anything else. Let's just get it early is what we're saying.
Time is your best weeder.
This is another thing that I have had to learn the hard way.
Yes.
I like seeing what things turn into, Farmer Rebecca. Like, I'm
Me
so
too.
interested. I'm like, what are you? I'm just going to let you stay there until I learn. And that's great for certain parts of my garden, but I have learned it's not good for the parts of my garden where I'm trying to grow food.
Right. Okay, so maybe let's pause the video and we're gonna finish weeding. Okay, and we have finished weeding the bed, and it looks great.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! And we use this rake to rake it out smooth. And this is a bed we could transplant into today. Or we could just leave it, and the sun is gonna do its work, and there's all of these white threads on the top of the soil, which are very vulnerable little roots, and they're just gonna fry up in the sun, which is great. And then Neely's gonna come back next week and probably weed just by going like this, which will just disturb like the very top ½ inch of the soil and expose more white roots here. And hopefully that's a way that you can just keep weeding this summer.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that.
But let's go to a bed that's like a little bit less straightforward.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi everyone, so this is another bed. As you can see, I've put wood chips around, and there's cardboard and then wood chips on top to create the boundary. And this here in the middle is where I want to plant. And I spoke with Farmer Rebecca earlier, and she recommends that this bed we use cardboard mulch for, the cardboard mulch method. And so the main reason we sort of decided to try that method here is because of this particular little plant. Now, one of the things to know about the word weed is that it's a very subjective word. A weed is just anything that's growing where you don't want it to be. And one person's treasure is another person's weed. And things that I love, like plants I love to death, may still feel like a weed in my vegetable bed. So it's really important to get to know the plants and really like respect them and understand when they're a weed and when they're not. So this particular plant, this is called goutweed or bishop's weed. And I know at least one of our other shared abundance gardens has this and is worried about this. This is a plant that came in as a landscaping plant. You can see behind you on my yard. And it does have a lovely little white flower, but it is incredibly aggressive. So much so that I don't think anyone should ever plant it anywhere. It like gets in our woods and overtakes our woods, and it certainly doesn't belong in my bed. And so it is a weed, and it's sort of in this category of particularly difficult weeds where if I just pull it up like this, like hand weed it like we did before, I might get part of it, but see this long spaghetti string of a root? Every one of these spaces that's left in there is a place for it to come back. So even if you have a piece this big and it has one of these, it's going to come back. So actually, if you hoe this kind of a space, you might actually make things much worse for yourself.
Yikes.
Yeah, you might just end up with lots of little bits of spaghetti string. So this is a great bed, and every bed really is a great bed for a candidate as a cardboard mulch, even if it doesn't have noxious weeds. But this one is particularly good because I haven't done any work on the weeds yet, and I have goutweed in here. So we're gonna put down cardboard here, and we'll get back to you when we're done.
Okay, welcome back. We have hand weeded this garden, got out as much of the weed as we could, and now we're gonna cardboard mulch it. So to cardboard mulch it, you are just making lasagna. You're just putting down your cardboard and covering up all the surface, and anywhere that there's like holes, like making sure that there's overlap. Okay, so then on top of the cardboard, I'm gonna put compost, and you can go to Abundance Farm and pick up your compost from your Shared Abundance Garden compost pickup. And I'll put this on top to weigh it down. And I really want to make sure that everything is covered. So we're just going to do a little corner today, not the whole thing. And then on top of this, I'm going to put some straw. And if you don't have straw, that's okay. You'll just hand weed it throughout the season, like we showed in the other bed. But the straw acts as a mulch to suppress weeds also.
And keep things moist?
And keep things moist.
So it's like a double barrier of moist. You've got the cardboard to keep things moist, and then on top of the little layer of compost, you have a little bit of straw, and it just sort of keeps everything lasagnaed.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And I also, if you're using straw, would water this down so that your straw doesn't fly away. It's more likely to stay down once you water it.
This happened to me in all the winds the past week. I had straw all over my yard. This is actually looks great in comparison. So
Yeah.
you learn.
Okay, next we'll show just in this little test corner, transplanting in a transplant.
Yay. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to be transplanting in this aster seedling, and we're going to be doing it into the cardboard. So the first step is I get a knife, and I'm going to clear a hole in the straw, and I'm going to use the knife to cut into the cardboard. And I've actually never done this before, so it's not as graceful as...
I've also seen Farmer Rose at the farm just like poke a giant hole in it with like a awl or something. Or the other way, because I don't have a knife, the other way I like to do it sometimes is to like, you see how this part is cut out?
Yeah.
I would transplant right in there, and then I would sort of like bring the cardboard closer to it.
Yeah.
So anyway, any one of those ways.
I cut an X and I opened up a hole in this X. And then I'm going to dig out some of the soil.
Can that go on top of the cardboard?
Right on top of the cardboard.
Yay.
And when you're transplanting seedlings, you want to make sure that all of this is underground, and you don't want to cover this top part. So you want it to be really right snug up there. You don't want any of this cube of soil out of the ground. So you really want to make sure it's snug. Another thing is that these are way more resilient than you think they are. You don't have to be super precious. You just have to treat them with respect, but you don't have to like be afraid of them. So I have my nice deep hole, and maybe I'll just cut this.
Farm Rebecca, I'm noticing that these seedlings are also very moist.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, you want to make sure that they have a lot of water before they go in the soil root. And yeah, don't plant dry seedlings. You really want them to be moist.
So when I get them out of those like plasticky things that I'm going to get them on Sunday, I want to just like pop them out by like pressing the bottom up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if they feel at all dry, I could just like soak them.
Soak the whole thing in water.
Okay, so I could have a bucket. I always like to have a bucket next to me, and I just do like dunk the root ball in there just in case.
Yep.
And then stick it in the ground like
Great.
this.
So now I'm sticking it in the ground, and I'm just going to put some of this soil back around. And
oh my goodness.
I'm just really making sure it has good contact.
It's like you're giving it a very serious massage.
Yeah, you just want to make sure it has really good root contact, because you really want to make sure it has good contact with the soil. So now it's in there, in our hole, and I'm just going to make sure that, none of the soil is on the plant, but I'll put the straw back around, and now it's snug in there, and it's ready to go.
I'm noticing it's really sort of like almost in a divot. It's like all the water is just going to go down there instead of going away from it.
Yep.
Fabulous.
And that's how you plant into cardboard.
Amazing.
And now you'll have some asters.
I love asters. And in my original bed here, if I wanted to plant in, I just do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I could just leave it sort of like this with the plants in it and no mulch at all.
Yep.
Or I could put a little straw around it.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we could just plant this one right here. So I'll just dig a little hole. Usually it's better to have a trowel or something, but our hands are the original trowel.
Yeah. I can never find a trowel when I need one.
Yeah, so I'm digging a hole with my hand, and it's deep enough, and I make sure I put it in there, and then just put the soil around it. And again, you're just really pressing it in there.
Nice.
And another thing is, if you're just planting right into soil, it's really nice to just like make sure that it's loose on top, because you're going to get weeds wherever you like press in. So you just want to make sure it's loose around it.
Huh, great.
Ta-da!
Yay!
Happy gardening.
Thanks. And if I don't have straw?
It's okay.
It's okay. You could just even put like a little bit of newspaper with a little bit of
water.
Water. Yeah. Try it out. you tell us. We're going to be excited to be visiting Shared Abundance Gardens all summer, and you're going to tell us what worked and what didn't, and we're excited to learn with you.
Yeah. Yay!
Happy gardening!